This is Joshua Farnsworth. Welcome to my traditional woodworking school. In this video, hand plane expert Bill Anderson discusses methods he uses to identify historical molding planes and their age using maker marks and other molding plane features.
Before I move on to refurbishing molding planes, I want to talk a little bit about getting an idea of whether or not the plane is actually a candidate for refurbishing. Not all planes should be refurbished, particularly if they have any historical value, if they're owned by somebody of note, or if they've been modified in a way that's unique and unusual, or if they show marks, owner marks that indicate how the plane was used throughout its history. Things like that have a big impact on the historical nature of the molding plane and should be preserved. One thing is how old is this plane? And so molding planes were started to be made in the early 1700s. In England, and then in the late 1700s in the United States. And so if you look at these planes made in the 1700s, you'll see that they have some different characteristics from 18th century planes, from 19th century planes.
Here's one of our related videos I think you'll like. Check the link in the description below.
First of all, here's a 18th century plane. The wedge is long, the neck is narrow, the finial here is based on a circle. The chamfers are wider and flat. Here's an even better example of a wide, flat chamfer right here. You can see how wide these are, and flat and deep. They're deep into the sides of the plane like that. The round finial here. So these are all characteristics. Another thing is there wasn't really a standard about the length of the plane. So sometimes you find molding planes made 10 inches long or maybe a little bit longer. That started to transition into a standard of 19th century planes where the planes had pretty much a fixed length, somewhere between 9 3/8 and 9 1/2 inches. The finials here on the wedges were based on ellipses, and you can see that the chamfers here were not as deep, and they were more shallower and rounder like that. So you see a transition in the early 1800s between the 18th century style and the 19th century style. But that'll give you an idea about the age of the plane. It won't give you a very necessarily a completely accurate idea, but it'll start to give you in a ballpark.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying watching our video so far, and I just want to take a few seconds to let you know about our traditional woodworking store, which you can visit while taking a class or by visiting our website at woodandshop.com/store. You'll find our amazing products to help you grow in traditional hand tool woodworking, including in-person and video woodworking classes, woodworking hand tools and workbenches, woodworking plans, traditional wood finishes, shirts and hats, and cool hand tool woodworking gifts for you or your loved ones. Okay, back to the show.
So another thing to look at is the maker's marks. When plane makers made their planes, they often stamped on the nose of the plane right here their mark. There are other marks on these planes as well. This particular plane was made by Griffiths of Norwich. It's a British plane maker. And this same plane has 3 different owner's marks on it. I'll just read these names. W. Reed, H. Evans, H.T. Alcock. It also has the size of the plane stamped right here, so another mark. Usually on the heel. All these were usually on the heel, although owners quite often stamped them just wherever they like. Some owners stamp them all over the plane. Here's an example of a plane made by Matheson in Glasgow. The second owner stamped his mark right over the first owner's mark to make absolutely sure who owned this plane, I assume. But those maker marks are very important because there's a couple of books here that are very, very useful for researching out the age and history of planes. A book by Goodman in England of the British plane makers, and a similar sort in America by Emil Pollock about American planes. These have information on the age when a plane maker was working, where he was working, a history of his plane making company, how the marks may have varied over the course of their plane making operations, and will give you a very good idea about the rarity of individual planes, so that you can see, you can find out information about the owner, or the maker, as well as the rarity. Owner's marks won't necessarily be in here. Some of these books also have information about the owner's stamps on the plane irons as well. Smaller section, but still good information about where the plane bodies came from, where the plane irons came from. So that information together with whatever you can glean from actually looking at this plane would help you to have a way good idea about whether or not you actually want to do anything to that plane. I consider myself to be a user of planes, so I buy molding planes to actually use in my shop. Although I have an extensive collection, I don't really consider myself a collector. So my planes are meant to be used, and so I have that perspective. On the other hand, if I have a plane that's unique in some way, I do not do anything with it, but I just set it aside and keep it in its original condition. So those are some of the things to think about before we move on to this next section, which will be on refurbishing molding planes.
If you're interested in learning traditional woodworking, come take a class at our school in Earlysville, Virginia. You can also visit our website at woodandshop.com, where you'll find a bunch of free woodworking lessons, workshop tours, and our very popular tool buying guides. And make sure you subscribe to our free newsletter to get our latest articles and videos. Enjoy!